Something about that moment stayed with me. I am talking about the exact second Valentine Cassadine strolled back into Port Charles, looking as though he hadn't a care in the world. Think about the sheer absurdity of his situation just a few weeks prior. He was a desperate fugitive, running from the formidable reach of the WSB, absolutely terrified of being locked away indefinitely in the dark, inescapable depths of Steinmauer. He had tearfully said goodbye to a heartbroken Charlotte, kissed Carly Spencer on the cheek, and vanished into the night to face an uncertain fate in Geneva. And then, suddenly, he is back. He meets with WSB head Z, and just like that, the slate is completely wiped clean. I couldn't stop thinking about it. At first, it didn't seem important. We are used to billionaires in this town escaping justice through loopholes, expensive lawyers, and sheer luck. But then Valentine did something highly unusual. He publicly, loudly declared his intention to purchase Wyndemere. It was too loud, too obvious. Valentine Cassadine is a man who operates in the shadows. He does not broadcast his real estate ambitions unless he wants every eye in Port Charles looking directly at that castle. I started following the thread, tracing the steps of his miraculous exoneration. The official narrative we have been fed is that Jocelyn Jacks played the ultimate hero. She supposedly made a backdoor secret deal with Z, agreeing to pin all of Ross Cullum's heinous crimes on the conveniently deceased Cassius Faison. In exchange, Z granted full, unconditional pardons to both Valentine and Jason Morgan. It sounds perfectly wrapped up, doesn't it? A neat little bow on a chaotic hostage situation that almost cost several lives. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that Valentine Cassadine is not a man who leaves his fate in the hands of a teenager's negotiation tactics. He wouldn't walk into the Lion's Den in Geneva without the ultimate trump card hidden securely up his sleeve. The pieces started to connect in my mind, forming a picture that completely contradicts the official story we have all been told to believe. This is where we have to look at the shadow beneath the story. The hidden undercurrent that no one is talking about yet. I keep coming back to the black box. We all know that Ross Cullum stole it. We know it contains Jack Brennan's most dangerous leverage, the kind of encrypted, world-shattering evidence that could destroy lives, completely neutralize Drew Kane, and upend the power dynamics of the entire city. Everyone, from Nina Reeves to Willow Kane to the Port Charles Police Department, has been scrambling to figure out where that box ended up after Cullum was brutally taken down on Spoon Island. But what if the race was over before the starting gun even fired? I keep wondering whether Valentine Cassadine actually found that black box before anyone else even realized it was in play. If that is true, if Valentine secured the black box while the chaos was still unfolding, then every single action he has taken since returning to Port Charles carries a completely different, almost sinister weight. His sudden, highly publicized desire to buy back Wyndemere? It doesn't seem accidental. It is a smokescreen. A brilliant, blinding distraction designed to keep Jack Brennan, Nina Reeves, Dante Falconeri, and the entire police force looking in the exact wrong direction. Valentine wants them all to believe that he is desperately searching the dusty, hidden corridors of the castle for that box. He wants them to waste their resources and their time digging through Windemere's secrets. But he isn't searching at all, because he already has it. Or, more accurately, he already used it to secure his own survival. Maybe there's another layer here. It's possible that Valentine didn't just walk into Z's office in Geneva to point the finger at Ross Cullum. It is highly probable that Valentine secretly handed the physical black box directly over to Z as the ultimate bargaining chip for his absolute freedom. A seasoned, ruthless WSB director like Z wouldn't grant a full pardon to an international fugitive just because a rogue agent was exposed. Z demands tangible, actionable intelligence. The black box is exactly that. It is a treasure trove of blackmail, secrets, and leverage that the WSB could use for decades to come. But this realization opens up a much larger, far more disturbing question that has been quietly bothering me as I watch the pieces move. If Z and the WSB actually have the black box in their possession right now, why do they still need Valentine? And far more importantly, why do they still need Jason Morgan? We were told that Jason was released from his grueling WSB captivity under the guise of Jocelyn's deal. He is supposedly a free man, returning to Port Charles to reconnect with Danny Morgan and distance himself from Sonny Corinthos' mob empire. But what if we're missing something fundamental? What if Jocelyn's agreement to secretly work for the WSB was only half the transaction? I can't shake the feeling that Z didn't just lock the black box away in a secure vault in Geneva. I think Z handed the physical black box directly to Jason Morgan before sending him back home to Port Charles. Why would the WSB give such a dangerous artifact to Jason? Because the WSB might have the box, but they cannot open it. Think about Jack Brennan's background. A man of his caliber, a former high-ranking WSB director with a brilliant mind for espionage and psychological warfare, does not leave his most devastating secrets in a simple, breakable lockbox. The black box is undoubtedly protected by a highly complex, state-of-the-art encryption system. It might require a biometric scan, a multi-tiered cryptographic key, or a specific verbal password that only Brennan knows. The WSB has the hardware. They possess the physical box, but they are entirely locked out of the software. That is where Jason Morgan's new unspoken mission comes into play. We have seen recent, very quiet reports that Jason might be granted special dispensation to relocate and live at Wyndemere. On the surface, it seems bizarre. Why would Jason Morgan, a man who has always preferred the gritty reality of the Port Charles streets, want to live in a Gothic castle on an isolated island? When you consider that the PCPD has been virtually powerless to intervene on Spoon Island lately, completely blocked by official WSB documents that allow Jason to reside there unbothered, it paints a very clear picture. The WSB is actively protecting a highly classified, covert mission that Jason has been forced to accept. Jason isn't moving to Wyndemere to enjoy the scenic views or to find peace. He is going there with a singular, unyielding directive to secretly decrypt Jack Brennan's black box. Wyndemere is the absolute perfect location for this dark, meticulous endeavor. It is an isolated fortress, physically separated from the mainland of Port Charles by dark, treacherous waters. It is quiet, rarely visited by uninvited guests, and shrouded in its own long history of secrets and blood. Jason can spend hours, days, even weeks down in those cold stone corridors, working on the decryption hardware without anyone ever interrupting him. While Carly Spencer, Danny Morgan, and the rest of Port Charles believe Jason is simply adjusting to his new freedom and trying to navigate his exit from the mob, he is actually shackled to a brand new master. He traded one prison for another, and this one is far more dangerous because it requires him to operate in complete secrecy. But breaking a WSB-grade encryption is only half the battle. Jason is a tactical genius in the field, but he is not a hacker. He is going to realize very quickly that brute forcing a lock designed by Jack Brennan is a mathematical impossibility. He needs the master key. He needs the password. And the only man on the face of the earth who holds that password in his memory is Jack Brennan himself. This is where the dynamic between these two men is going to shift in a way we have never seen before. Jason cannot just walk up to Brennan at Turning Woods or wherever he is currently recovering, pull a gun, and demand the code. Brennan is too smart, too heavily guarded, and far too resilient for simple intimidation tactics. Therefore, Jason will be forced to do something completely against his core nature. He will have to play a long, agonizing psychological game. He will have to secretly approach Jack Brennan, not as an enemy, not as an enforcer for Sonny Corinthos, but as an ally. He will need to ingratiate himself into Brennan's inner circle. Jason might have to offer his unique set of skills to help Brennan achieve certain immediate goals, perhaps offering to neutralize Drew Kane permanently, or stepping in to protect Nina Reeves from a looming threat, all in exchange for Brennan's trust. Jason Morgan, the stoic, straightforward enforcer, will have to become a master manipulator, wearing a mask that he is entirely unaccustomed to wearing. He will have to wait patiently in the shadows, helping Brennan build his power base back up, watching every move the former director makes. Jason will be waiting for that one fleeting moment when Brennan finally lets his guard down. That one moment of arrogance or vulnerability when Brennan slips and reveals the sequence, the phrase, or the key to the black box. It is a dangerous tightrope walk. If Brennan even suspects for a fraction of a second that Jason is secretly working for Z and the WSB, the entire operation will implode, and Jason's hard-won freedom will vanish instantly. The tension of this unspoken cat and mouse game is going to simmer beneath every single interaction they have in the coming weeks. But something feels unfinished. The more I turn this over in my head, the more I dread the inevitable conclusion of this mission. If Jason actually succeeds, if he manages to gain Brennan's absolute trust, extract the password, and finally unlock that black box in the cold, damp basement of Wyndemere, what happens next? Once that box is opened, decades of buried WSB secrets, the true identities of active double agents, the blueprints of long-running global conspiracies, and the ultimate leverage over Port Charles's elite will be laid bare for Z to see. In that exact second, the entire dynamic of the city shifts permanently, and the stakes become a matter of life and death. The moment the box is decrypted, Jack Brennan transitions from being a person of interest to being the most dangerous liability on the planet. Because Brennan knows exactly what is in that box, he knows who is involved, and he knows how to weaponize every single file against the WSB. I keep looking at the trajectory of Jason's character since his return. He desperately wants to be free for his son Danny. He told Sonny Corinthos he wants to leave the violence behind. But if he decrypts that box, the WSB will demand that those secrets remain permanently buried. They cannot afford to let Brennan live with that knowledge, especially when he has proven how manipulative and resourceful he can be. To protect the newly decrypted intelligence, and to ensure Brennan can never use that information to leverage his way back into power or destroy the agency, Jason might be forced to make a horrifying choice. Z might issue one final, non-negotiable order. Ensure that Jack Brennan disappears forever. The black box isn't just a container of secrets anymore. It is the very mechanism that will decide who lives, who dies, and who ultimately controls the shadowy underworld of Port Charles. And as Jason sits in the quiet halls of Wyndemere, staring at that locked box, you have to wonder, is he unlocking his long-awaited freedom, or is he simply unlocking his own doom? We don't have the answers yet. The pieces are still moving on the board, the shadows are still shifting, and the story is far from over.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.